It is 6 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started, and I think you're first on deck.
Do we have a quorum? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Susan, you want to handle a welcome and the roll call, please?
Yes, I was just taking count of how many we had with us.
Please excuse me for any names that I might get wrong. Steve Shemp,
Yes.
Frederick Atkins,
Yeah.
Chris Simoneau. Greta Campbell has an excused absence. Joe sorry. So sorry. Brian Rist. James Dozier. Fred Elliott.
That me?
Dozier's
Okay,
here.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Fred Elliott.
Here.
Michelle Perez Macias. Macias.
She's not here.
Dennis Perlman is excused. Sia Sherman.
Here.
Dan Severson. Harlan Parrish.
Here.
Randy Kreis, is that the right name? No. Okay.
I think I'm next on the agenda, and the primary piece of business is to welcome you, Harlan Parrish, to our committee. I've known Harlan for many years, as have most of us, and you're very welcome to be here. We appreciate your efforts.
Thanks.
He'll be replacing Joe Caddy from the finance side of things, and Randy Kreisy, if I didn't pronounce that correctly, I think Kreisy is correct, but he's been reappointed also. So now I'd like to turn it over to Irma Lancaster, that will give you an update on a bit of the sales tax communication efforts that have been going on in the district, and her timing's perfect. You're ready to speak because I just introduced you, Irma.
I'm ready. I'm behind the scenes, so I see everything.
Good deal.
Happening. Good evening, everyone. Let's try that again. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to be here with us and listen to all the great stuff we're doing with the sales tax dollars. So I did want to come back. If some of you who are already on the committee, earlier this year, I did come and speak to you about some of the communications efforts that we had planned for the 3-year anniversary of when we first started receiving funds. But as you know, November marks the 3-year anniversary of when the referendum was approved by by our local voters. So I wanted to come back and just share some of the stuff that we've done since, rehashing a little bit about what we told you we were going to do in March, telling you where we are on those things, and then sharing a little bit about what we've done throughout the month of November to highlight the 3-year anniversary. So when we first spoke, so I had shared all of this initial communications plan with you all. We did our first annual report for Change for Change in, I believe it was February that we released it. We launched our website, which we already had a website, but we expanded our website to be a little bit more user-friendly, so that it wasn't just the dashboard, because we know that that can be a little bit complicated for some of our website visitors. So we made it a little bit more friendly, adding a video, which you saw back then, and this is the most recent video, so this is a different video than it was then. This is the November 2021 update. We also created some tabs to make it a little more user-friendly. So obviously you can still see the dashboard, but some of the things we added were our media coverage. So for anyone interested on what stories are out in the media, you could go here and you could see all the stories month to month. And as you can see, ever since the referendum was approved, we have extensive coverage. Over the last year was a little bit more challenging to get media coverage given COVID, and we couldn't really have media at our schools, but we were still able to accomplish some visits by media. So if you go to our more detailed communications plan, you'll see that we had media come out to our schools in July to do the Lamb's ribbon cutting. We had them come in August to do the Centegix alarm system. which you've heard all about, I'm sure. Then we had them distribute information on the naming of Quadruple A, which we know now is on hold, but they did help us share that information with the public. We then invited them to come out to our school, several of our schools in November, to highlight some of the upgrades that some of our schools had received thanks to the sales tax. And to see all those stories, again, you could go to our website, and it shows you a great variety of all the news coverage we received: Fox 4, Wink News, Lehigh Acres Citizen, even CaptivaSanibel.com has put us out there. So this really just shows all the interest in media, despite not being able to have them on our campuses. And when we had them visit in November, we actually took advantage of the Veterans Day holiday when students were not there, so that we could have them come on and really help us highlight that. So if we go back to our website, another one of the areas you see that we told you we were going to do, we were going to try to do a video every quarter. We've done a little bit more than that. So if you go to that, that takes you to our YouTube page. This is the latest video that has like a wrap-up of the 3 years. It also has a podcast that we had that had more extensive information with Dr. Desmore. We have a story on Centegix, our topping, and then these are all the stories that are related to Change for Change, your tax dollars at work. So we go back to our site. Oh. Then you see the dashboards, financial audits, and then information on you committee members, on what the committee is and what you do. So going back to our communications plan, one of the things that you see that is repeating is something we told you we were going to start doing, which we called Sales Tax Tuesdays. So while there isn't always an event going on at one of our schools to showcase something that's going on, we want to stay top of mind with our community. So every Tuesday, we call it Sales Tax Tuesday, and we promote an effort that's being made, thank you to our sales tax, on our Facebook, our Twitter, and our Instagram pages. And that could be just an upgrade at a school. 1 week we highlighted the ISSOC committee, just different things that have to do with the sales tax, to just stay on top of mind of the community when we're not doing media or videos. Another thing that we really hit hard, especially during the month of November, is we frequently go out and do presentations to community groups on different topics, depending on what we have going on. So this year we did presentations on proximity. Previously we had done presentations on reopening schools. Given that we were at the 3rd anniversary, we now incorporated where we were on the sales tax so that our community organizations could see that. So some of those include a presentation that was done actually just this week to the Cape Coral Rotary. Then the superintendent was actually at the Fort Myers Rotary and at the Horizon Council. And while his presentation was a little bit more broad overall about district efforts, it did have a very big part of the presentation was related to the sales tax. And some other efforts we did this month to really just highlight the 3rd anniversary. We had a Facebook Live event where people could send in their questions beforehand related to the sales tax, and we had Ms. Millay, we had Dr. Desmore answering questions related to that. We're also planning some community events next week to get public feedback in person, having to do with the naming of Elementary J, as well as the future of LAMS and VPA. Well, the old LAMS and VPA. We have also included information that goes out directly to our parents via our District Hits newsletter that they receive directly into their email inboxes. So we're really making an effort to reach everyone, from media to community organizations to parents to just anyone that follows us on social media, as well as just keeping our website up to date, because while it is very user-friendly, we know everyone isn't always on our website. So by having our media partners cover our stories and what's happening, depending on what media organization you watch, hopefully you'll see something having to do with Lee schools and how our tax dollars are being spent. Other than that, the board presentations and presentations to you are also other ways that not just our staff, but the district is sharing information about sales tax. And I don't know if you have anything that I might have missed that you can think of that we've talked about
I
recently?
think you've covered it all.
Okay.
We have identified a list of Rotary and other organizations that we will be presenting at in the coming year.
Okay. Any questions from any?
Have you tracked and do you know how many people are visiting the sales tax website?
Yes, we do. I don't have the analytics with me, but yes, I can give you that exactly. I can give you the sales tax website as well as each individual tab, how many people are going to media, how many people are going to visit our videos. So I can certainly get those analytics for you, and they can be shared with you via email.
Getting people to that website, if you can accomplish that, you will get great mileage out of it. And, I think we ought to put a concerted effort in getting people to that location and looking at the website, because there's a lot of information there.
Yep, that's when we do Sales Tax Tuesday. We always link to our website with their media. We always share our website with them. And that's kind of why we use those extra avenues, because we know that people aren't necessarily always going to go to our website. Even though it's a great place to host everything, people get their information in various places. So we try everything.
Any other questions? Yes, Chris?
So I've been advocating for this for a while, and I just wanted to say thank you for doing this. This is a great story that we have to tell, and you're now telling it in meaningful ways. I was on the Lee TV's network. That's what a boring guy I am. I was on there, and I saw the video, and I was flipping through. I stopped and watched the video, and I thought it was great for those people who can see that video. They really understand what this is doing for our region. So thank you. I think it's great.
Thank you.
I did see you did a Facebook Live.
Yes.
And I would suggest that maybe you use other business leaders or this committee to help you tell the story when appropriate.
We would love that.
When a school is opening, invite our committee, invite business leaders out to join you. So that's not just the school telling the story and what it is, but it's our committee and business leaders telling that story.
Yeah, and that was actually something that was on our initial plan. When we had the ribbon cutting at Gateway and we had the ribbon cutting at Lambs, we did invite the committee to attend, and we certainly would love your support if you were wanting to write an op-ed, or if media ever invited us for an interview at a campus, and some of you would be interested as an ISSOC committee member to do an interview. If we could gather those names, so when that comes up, we can reach out to you. That would be great.
I wonder if it'd be worth considering sending an email to each of the committee members, and Susan, it would probably come from you, polling as to whether they would be willing to participate in participations at the community, in presentations at the community level. You may have some members of the committee that are more than willing to do that, and some of us, have done those sorts of things and are talented at it. And a very good point. It's one thing for the district to tell the story, but to have a business leader assisting that telling is advantageous. So maybe we ought to poll the committee and see, and maybe ask them, how many a year would you be willing to do? Are there good times or bad times? Kind of put together a questionnaire and then turn that over to Irma. And Irma, you could reach out to those folks who, as you wish.
Yeah, we agree 100% with that statement, and we would very much like to partner with any committee members. We certainly don't want to put any committee members in an uncomfortable situation if they don't want to do media or presentations, but anyone that is willing when they come up, especially because we do want to be out as much as possible, even if the committee member isn't the main person doing the presentation, just being there to support, introducing yourself, what your role is, could really add to what we're sharing in the community. So thank you.
Any other questions?
I had one, and it's just to tie up a loose end.
Sure.
Mr. Atkins had mentioned at one point doing a press conference, so I didn't know if that was something that had ever been addressed. I know it had been tabled at one point, but I don't know that it had ever been
The
addressed.
Veterans Day, that was that one.
Or even if you still think that's a
I'm
pertinent thing to
They
do.
did address it at one time they said that they were planning to do something, but nothing ever came out of it.
Do you mean what do you mean by press conference? You mean like podium, people come in and, okay.
I believe that's what you were.
Yeah.
So what we do, because we have to have something to tell them or show them. So what we did, when we invited them to the Gateway ribbon cutting and the Lambs ribbon cutting, they did those stories. When we did the media event in November, it wasn't I'm going to stand at the podium and speak. It was come and bring your cameras, walk around our schools and show what we've done, and that's what we did in November. So it was a media day. It wasn't a press conference.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
I don't know if that satisfies what you wanted, and I don't mean to speak for you. I'm kind of good at that.
But no, I brought it up, it was sometime several months ago, and someone did mention something. They said we were working on it and we're going to do something about it, but then I never heard anything else about it.
Yeah, when we decided on the media day,
That's what you decided to do?
yes.
Okay.
That's what media want. They want to see things, and we want them to show them.
I think we got some coverage as a result of that, too. 20, I know, had was that a result of that media day?
Yes.
That TV 20
Yep.
had?
They all came
I don't
that
know if
day. It
other
was
stations
great.
picked up or not. I happened to be watching that evening, so.
And you could visit our media coverage page if you want to see any of those stories. And I love it when you go to it because it really does show the variety of media that's covering us. Maybe they don't cover every story, but you see up here we have Fox 4, down here we have NBC2. So really, if they don't all go to the same thing at one point or another, somebody's talking about it, which is what we want.
Can you click on that Sandoval Captiva one? That's a,
Yeah.
it looks, just from it, is that was produced by you? Okay. Yeah. No.
Yeah, we send the information out and do our best to, talk them into publishing it. Yeah.
Are you pretty satisfied with the number of contacts that have been made on the website? And,
We are. Actually, our analytics on the website are incredible, not just on this one, but in general. But yes, we received a lot of public records requests for information that is readily available there, so that brings awareness to the information already being public. So there is a lot of interest.
okay.
And this just helps gain more interest.
Any other questions?
I think the only other comment, and I apologize for taking up so much time, but the only other comment, if you could go back to the list of media coverage, what are the possibilities of, instead of having what is the importance? Is it just as important to see who printed it or who published it, as well as the topic that was covered? Because sometimes you can put, for example, on the Sandoval Captiva one, it says, school district, half-cent sales tax making a difference. If you could have that with the hyperlink to the link instead of having the link there, so it was much more clear as to exactly what the topic was. I don't know, just a suggestion.
So it is something that can be done. However, it is something that is also extensively time-consuming, which is why we pretty much just copy and paste the link. And it does help to show who the agency is also, so people don't think it's just us and our videos, it's theirs.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate your report and your efforts.
We look forward to having you guys come out.
Next thing on the agenda is the schedule of the
Thank you.
2022 meeting dates, and I don't know if those have been circulated or not. I have them in front of me, and I'll read them off. Perhaps you could jot them down. These mirror the last year's meeting dates that we had, so that and they do fit staff schedule. And I'd like to see if we could approve them this evening. Obviously, not everybody can make everybody happy, but these seem to work for staff and have worked for us in the past. Thursday, March 24th, Thursday, June 23rd, Thursday, September 22nd, and Thursday, December 8th. And that's early in that fourth quarter last month in light of the holidays. And I'd like to have a motion to approve those dates if we could.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? I realize that they may not fit everybody's schedule, but they seem to work reasonably well in the last year. The next question is one that we may want to spend some time on, or we might just want to keep going the way we are. We have met at 6 o'clock in the evening since we got started with the Sales Tax Committee. That has seemed to have worked, but other advisory committees of the district meet anywhere as early as 4 o'clock and some at 5. We are the latest of the group. I like it because it doesn't goof up my golf game, but, you know, that's not very important. When I was working, I always preferred like 5:30 or 6 because you could finish the workday. I'd like to hear, does anybody see us changing that time? Would you like to move it from the 6 o'clock? I'm seeing everybody shaking their heads like this works.
Works for me.
It works for me.
All of us can go on empty stomachs until 7, as long as you make the meeting move quickly, Shemp. So 6 o'clock it is. And moving to the next agenda item, I'd like to open the floor for any public comment. Is there anyone here from the public? And I believe is this a 3-minute public comment?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Is anyone here from the public that would like to comment? If you'd come up and introduce yourself, and feel free. Yeah, I think if you go to the microphone right up here, that would be best. Thank you.
Mr. Schimpf?
Yes.
Following public comment, we might want to go back to the approval of the prior meeting minutes.
Whoops, skipped that, didn't I? Yeah. I'll tell you what, sir, if you could hold tight. No, stay right where you are. You're good. You're going to work. We also need to approve the prior meeting minutes. They were distributed in advance of the meeting. I'd entertain a motion.
Second.
I think you had multiple motions and multiple seconds. Chris and Fred were the two I thought that were jumped out. And I'd like to have a vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. And sir, I'm sorry to postpone that the way I did, but it was important.
No problem.
Thank you.
I
The floor is
understand.
yours.
Okay, I'm Lou Navarra, 38-year retired teacher, Lee County School District, 76 years old, Vietnam vet, widower. So that'll give you a little idea, 48 years in Cape Coral approximately. I had a couple questions. When you have to fill a position, where would you advertise that? Because I had wanted to serve on this committee, but at the time they didn't pick me because they said I was an employee. I was a sub-teacher. I won't be doing that haven't done it in a long time. So where would you advertise that? It's like the city of Cape Coral. They said they advertise, but, you know, I miss it. Is there a special?
I don't know the answer to that myself. I do know that the application is on the website.
Right.
And,
but we don't know when there's a vacancy that I could apply for or someone else.
I think in lieu of, we do rotate members every 2 years. There were initially 2-year periods and 4-year periods. So it comes up every other year. How it's put out to the public, I'm not sure. Susan, could you?
Well, you may want to consider that.
So I can share that that is posted on the board's website. Irma, would you like to answer that?
Sure. Sorry. See, I told you I was behind the scenes. Okay. So one of some of the things that we do to advertise when there's an availability in the committee, was that the question? Yes. Okay. So we'll receive the information from the school board office on what committees have availabilities. Those are promoted using our regular communications channels, which we send to the media and they help us share. We also put it on our website and we share on social media. We also send an email blast to our community partners.
Where might that be advertised then, so I can keep an eye on it?
So on our website and on the media organizations' websites.
On the website.
Yes, on the school district website.
Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
That's it there?
I know when I applied to be a part of this committee that it was sent out via email to everyone that had an email, I guess, in your database or whatever.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, that's our email blast. Correct. Yes.
Okay, if we could move on. Next
Yeah,
question.
we'll move on. Thank you. Can we see a balance sheet of what we spent so far? I had to do a public records for one.
I can encourage you to stay for the rest of the meeting and you can view the full financial report, number one, and number two, on the website, the sales tax website is an extraordinary amount of financial information available to the public, and it's all there.
Okay, well, I'm learning.
So, but I would encourage you to stay through the meeting because
I'll
you'll
try.
see the same report that comes to us.
Yeah, they sent me one sheet from Public Records, but it wasn't, it was kind of vague, you know, did this at Skyline, did that at whatever.
Not vague.
All right,
The school and what they did and how much, that's not vague. That is an exact reporting of the sales tax.
well, what about the balance sheet then? Are you
You'll see
printing that online
You'll see,
then?
that's available both online, you'll see it
Okay.
tonight, like the chairman said.
That's good to know. But you don't put it in the paper like they do the budget for a budget hearing that the district does, right?
The provision of the provision of what was passed by the voters provided for this committee to meet and to report to the school board, and that it be open in a public meeting, so that, you know, we are fulfilling that.
And you're overseeing the spending? What if you don't approve of the spending? What does this committee do?
We don't spend the money particularly. We review what has been proposed in the projects to make sure that they fall within the parameters of the past, that was passed by the voters. The decisions on where the money is spent are brought forth to various committees at the district level, not this committee. Our job is to make sure that those decisions and the monies are spent in accordance with what was passed by the voters, not specific project choosing one over the other.
How do we know that, though?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
How do we know that? Or that they're spending the money properly? Because you're the overseeing committee. That's the way it was sold.
Sure, they do. The district does report to this committee on a quarterly basis, and we get an opportunity to review that is being spent properly within what was passed by the voters. I don't know how to say it any more clearly to you. I think that should answer your question.
It does.
So if I could interrupt, please, it's been 5 minutes.
All right, have you had any improprieties where you don't agree with what they spend, or you saw they shouldn't have spent that money?
I'm sorry, but I've got to shut you off. It's been 5 minutes, and I'm sorry, but our time is up. Thank you. Is there anyone else here from the public?
How are you, Betsy?
Thank you. I'll be making the next item in lieu of Kelly, just bringing you all up to speed on a decision that's been made at the district level. There was a proposal for I'll call it Quad A Elementary School in the south area of the county to be constructed. That has been removed from the planning and the sales tax expenditure at this point, and it's been driven by the fact that was originally proposed based on population projections in that area of the county. And a couple things have happened. The builders that are developing in that area are developing more slowly than what they had anticipated, and they're not building the rooftops. And they're also finding that the cross-section of people that are moving into these communities are older, they don't have kids at home, and they're not sending kids to the schools. So that the district, in looking at their needs analysis, has said that the need is not there at this time, so it has been removed from the plan. It's not to say that it will never happen. It's to say that we would be building a brand new school that we don't have the students to occupy. So just wanted to make the committee aware of that. The question was asked as to whether there had been any sales tax funds expended on that effort, and there have been no sales tax funds expended on that school that will not be constructed or has been postponed. Any questions? Thank you. I'll then turn it over to the individual department heads, and Scott, are you first on the report, or maybe?
Yes, sir. So Mr. Rickenbacker is going to tell us about major construction projects that have been going on, and here's Scott. You can come down here.
I can read it there. It's probably easier.
Come on up.
Good evening, committee members.
Oh, no, close it.
Good evening, committee members. Scott Rickenbacker, Director of the Construction Department. This is your update for this quarter. Presently, we have new schools and major renovations at J Elementary, MM Middle School, which you would now know as New Lambs. We're also doing an addition because of the growth in the East Zone onto the MM Middle School Lambs as we speak. We're in the drawing process for both J and MM addition. We're in the design stage for Riverdale High School. It's a remodel and an expansion of that classroom. Ultimately, the goal is to create space within the school to remove the portables that have been there for a number of years in the back, modify the parent pickup and parking. They've had a deficit of parking and it's causing safety concerns on the surface roadway, so we're bringing in some parking and stacking inside the campus, as well as a new gymnasium. Their gymnasium right now is undersized for a population of about 2,300 kids. And we're just starting the design phase, and we'll be presenting to the superintendent and the board members a graphic that we engage with both school-based staff and with district staff. And we've come to a model we believe is a good model for the rebuild of this school, which will be over about a 3-year period. And we're excited to be bringing that forward. So we've just started our initial design on that project.
Go through each slide.
Okay, I'm just briefly describing this
okay,
one. And then
gotcha.
Franklin Parks Elementary, we have begun the design process on that school as well. And right now we're researching a staging campus for those kids. That school has asbestos in it, so obviously we don't want to locate the kids on portables on that particular property while we're doing our demolition work. So we're figuring out a staging campus somewhere locally to that school that the kids will be housed in as we do the demolition and rebuild. And also Cypress Lake Middle School is also a Castaldi rebuild, and we're in the process of getting ready to do RFQs for that and figuring out how we best suit that student population for those children as well, where we'll temporarily house them. And Fort Myers Technical College, we're getting ready to receive bids. The drawings are complete. So that remodel that we're doing at the adult education facility is getting ready to get kicked off as well. So you'll see a lot of these things on your next quarterly report already in action. So here's J Elementary and the MM addition. They're both due to be open to house children in August of 23. Right now, you'll see on the left, we have what we call our projections. Now, these are construction costs, so let me make that clear. So the numbers you're seeing are construction costs only. They don't have inflation in them, and they do not have what we call FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. You know, the chair, furnitures, copy machines, school needs, IT, smart boards, things of that nature. So you can see right now for the MM Middle School, our design team and our CM team are pretty close in their numbers, and that's because we have weekly meetings. Part of our district phase process is the phase one, where we engage with the architect design team. We bring the construction manager on board for a small fee to attend every weekly meeting during the design process, as well as the building official. So the intent is we're getting 30, 60, 90, and ultimately the GMP 100% drawings, so that when I come to the board for a total project cost request, the drawings are complete. They've been reviewed by the construction manager with their input for constructability, as well as the building official, the permitting agency, to also provide all of the permitting requirements so that when we get the bids coming in from the community, they're accurate bids, no surprises after the fact in regards to like a code miss, a code interpretation that could force me to go back to the board and ask for more money. So it's one whole package, one hard number. The board then would either approve or deny the GMP. In that case, if they approve it, then we would go to phase two, which is the actual amendments to the contractor's contract, and we begin the project. Okay? So right now, December 2nd, I believe this date is incorrect. It says December 2nd. I want to say it's either the 6th or the 8th. It's one of the community meetings where we're going out to the community to bring them up to speed, show them some of our schematic designs of what the layout of the school is going to look like. The principals can speak about any special programs and so forth, so it's engaging with the community to have their input as well. Yes, Kelly just said it is the 8th, not the 2nd. Next is Riverdale campus. This was one of about 8 different versions of the layout of the campus. And right now, the school base and staff have all thought that this option D plan would be our best and most practicable to best suit the school itself and the needs of the student population. So we're just getting ready to present that to the board as well, or the superintendent and the board as well, for kickoff. And if it gets a thumbs up from all members, then we'll start aggressively starting in the design process for that school. Our intent is we would like to go out and do some site civil work. It's a major undertaking in the front of that school, so we're trying to push this as much as we can to get some early work. And I don't know if you guys know about materials, but RCP pipe now is extremely difficult and long lead to get. So we're trying to pull the trigger and get this concept approved so we can do some early buyout packages and to get some work going while the summer months are here and kids are out of the campus. Next, Franklin Park remodel. Again, we just started our design. If you folks aren't familiar, this is going to be a prototype elementary school, similar to Tortuga, but we're going to update it to today's standards based on the needs of the schools and 2021 standards. It's a little over 500 children and another 180 pre-K. There is a building that in the Castaldi report we have to leave because it hasn't aged out, but we'll be basically leaving the structural steel, the block walls, gutting the inside and refurbishing that building. And half of that building is going to be a community wraparound program. They're going to have several social services programs for both the local community area in there. I want to say UNICEF is involved, but I'm not 100% sure, but it's a community wraparound, and the other half of that building will be used for school purposes and things of that nature. So it's a big community involved program in here. And again, that right now that is portables. We're looking to put the kids, it'll be like a winter break move. So we'll start setting up portables. We'll start grabbing them from various areas. And once we choose a final site, which we believe we've honed in on a good site, we'll start that trailer portable location campus and then move them over Christmas break into those portables. And then in around January, February, we will then start with the, not this year, but we will start with the, this is next January, we will start with the actual demolition, which is about 3 months, and then start the entire rebuild of that campus.
Next January.
Fort Myers Technical College, again, we're going through that campus, we're updating it, fully sprinklering the building, and we've met with the school and with the adult education leaders to find out what programs need to be expanded, that there's a need so that we can provide that space. They have waiting lists for many of their in-demand programs, so that's what we're looking to do on that particular campus. And right now that estimate, we have an architect's estimate of about $13 million. The contractor's coming in around 10. And again, it needs to be FF&E plugged into those numbers, but escalation has definitely hit all of our costs. We were realizing on quadruple A as the GMP was getting ready to come to the board, that from the initial schematic concept costs, there was about a 14% inflation factor just since COVID hit. So it's pretty extensive, and it doesn't look like that's going away anytime soon. Is that it?
Thank you. Scott, any questions?
Go ahead.
This is a complicated question, I'm sorry.
Could you speak into?
All right, does this work?
Just speak up, Chris, and you'll be fine.
There are 3 zones, correct? Are they equally distributed by children in the school district?
That would be a proximity and a student assignment question. I can't speak to that, I'm sorry.
But do we know the growth rates in each of the 3 zones for students in each area?
We have a planning department that knows what those growth rates are, and they work with the local, county and communities to see what their growth patterns are and their trends. But again, construction, I get the football, I'm the quarterback. Once all that is vetted through and the board approves me to begin, I just design and I build the buildings to house a population that they say I need to build for that zone in that particular area. Construction has nothing to do with student projections in that area.
I realize it's an unfair question.
That's okay.
Maybe someone else would jump in and save you.
Yeah, I remember the DSIC committee in the 90s and early 2000s, the original districts were similar in population and area, but since that time they haven't been changing, so it's distinctly different based on growth. The east has grown clearly the most. Yeah, I would say the west is second, and then the south would be third.
Well, I'm more interested in projections because we made a clear determination that the south zone was not growing as right. I'm just trying to understand, what are the projected growth rates in each of the 3 zones? And I'll get to my point, which is, we have outlined how we can spend money by school, but have we done it by zone? And are the zones getting appropriate investment? As an Estero resident, it kind of shocked me that we weren't moving forward on that school, because there is extraordinary growth in the Estero Bonita area. So I'm just, my guess is that the school is projecting less growth than there will be in other zones. And as we come back around, we're going to want to be able to say, the school, this surtax helped all the zones, whether it's equally or not equally, we're going to have to explain that.
Well, you have two-part question. But well, just from a generic standpoint, your first portion is, yes, we do have a planning department, works with demographics companies to aid in those projections. So yes, our staff should be able to provide you with the current data they have to support the need in the various areas. The second part of your question was the amount of spending in each zone. Is it comparable across zones? And I think the financial department could put that together based on all the projects. And then a third part is, right now in the East Zone, they have a high proportion of portables that have been housing middle school students, much more so than any of the other 2 zones. Back in the day, it was Cape Coral. All the portables you see out in the East Zone now, at one point, Joe will remember, was out in Cape Coral. And when the market dropped, people moved out there. They went to lower rent potential areas, and a lot of it went to the East Zone, and the portables went with those children, and they've been there since. So I think staff can provide you some of those details. I know that they're working with Davis Demographics now to re-look at all of the zones in the entire district as a whole to get current and updated information. I want to say they thought they could have a full report by, say, June of this coming June, but I don't want to speak for their department. That's just me, third-party hearing.
May I?
Yes.
Please, Mrs. Vaughn, could you come up and join us?
I talk loud.
Thank you, Mrs. Vaughn.
I just wanted, we can get that information quite easily, but, and I don't mean for this to sound disrespectful, but I have to say, we don't serve zones, we serve children. And wherever the need is, and we look at that need, that's where our schools are being built. So it's not about equality of, this zone got X number of dollars, this zone needs the same. It's about equity, and it's about really catching up in Lehigh, which, as Mr. Rickenbacker said, has way more portable classrooms than any other district. But we have looked at all those numbers, and your chair gave a brief reason for quadruple A being put on hold, and those are the kinds of things that we look at, and that's why those decisions are made. But I think it's always, always important, at least from my point of view, that we serve children and we go to where the need is for the children. So,
if I can piggyback on that as well, the dollar amount might not be the same in each zone, because a new building, of course, would cost more than something else. But I think we can all agree that every one of our schools are aging and need something done. And we are making an effort to make sure that every one of our schools are touched by the tax dollars, sales tax dollars. And I believe on the site we have the schools that are touched and how much and what it was, so that information. But we are making sure that the sales tax dollars does get to every school, so that we are trying to make sure that everybody sees something from these dollars. I hope that answered your question. And on the growth thing, our East Zone, of course, is growing a lot more than our others, and it changes. In the past it was the West, and then it switched to the East, as Scott had said. So our East is the fastest growing. Our West is actually coming back now and starting some growth that we had not seen before, and our South is the slowest growing right now. But like I said, we are trying to make sure that every school gets something from the sales tax dollars. And so far, every school has. If you remember, right, as we were doing the sales tax too, the security issue came to light. So every school has had security upgrades and things from these dollars.
Well, it's important also to note that it's not just driven by where the growth is. In the instance of the middle school, Cypress Lake Middle School and Riverdale High School, that's a function of how old the school is, and it needs to be replaced. And the elementary school we're doing. I mean, we have a number of facilities that are at the end of their useful life, and it's the replacement of them. That's not driven by the growth. That's driven by the need for the student.
I would think that a lot of the newer facilities, I say newer, Bonita Springs High School, a number of those in the south zone, with the growth that we had there in the last 20 years.
Right.
And I see it in my business. I live in Bonita. I work in Estero in my office. There are a lot of people moving to that area, but many of them are retirees from other states. And they're not bringing children or grandchildren with them.
But I think you bring up a good point, Chris, that we need to be very transparent and talk a little bit more about what schools are getting what for what reasons, because it's funny that you say that, you know, living in Bonita, you're like, well, it makes sense that you put a school there because you see all the traffic going there. I literally have 15 houses that are being built around mine, and I live in Lehigh. So for me, and my perspective, my thought was, why would you need a school in the Bonita Springs Estero area when Lehigh is busting through the seams? And I know for Riverdale, for a fact, is almost double the capacity it was built for. Yeah. So,
and I believe the Riverdale remodel was due to someone coming to this committee.
Yes.
Yes.
And making the pitch, and that's when we looked at it, because it wasn't on the original plan. So I respect for making the changes.
Right.
And it's
the question, which is, growing fastest.
West, and then south.
Mr. Semino, I think when the maintenance comes up to give their presentation, they've got a cornucopia of projects they're doing across the district at all the schools, so I think that'll make you feel a little bit better about every school's being touched and things are getting there.
We have a responsibility as this committee. It came before us in previous meetings to approve sales tax money for the use of quadruple A, and we approved that. And so my interest is in understanding why we undid that, and does this committee have any role? If it has been taken off the sales tax charge, then we don't have any role in that.
We do not have a role in steering the specific project selection that is done by the planning of the district. We do have a role in making sure that the sales tax dollars are expended on projects that fall within the parameters of what was passed by the voters.
Yeah.
That's why in the instance of when I believe it was a lady that came forward to speak to us about Riverdale High School, and part of our public comment, we referred her to the planning people, and the district followed up with her, and obviously that resulted in, that brought some good things forward. But we do not have we are not charged with that, and we don't have the authority to make those changes. The reason I wanted to advise you of quadruple A was that there was a question as to whether we had spent sales tax on that effort, and I wanted it to be in the minutes that in fact we have not spent money on that effort that has now been set aside.
And I think the problem would be that if they was not doing, spending the money down there for that triple A, and we're using it outside of the parameters that was set, that would be the problem. But am I correct? That would be the problem.
It would be a problem if that money were diverted from quadruple A as was approved here and used for a purpose outside what was passed by the voters. Right. But that is not the case.
That's not the case.
In that instance, there were no dollars spent for quadruple A either.
Okay.
So, yeah, Joe.
Remember that we get 2 bites at every dollar. We prospectively approve the expenditure of dollars for projects, and then retrospectively approve the projects. So even though we approve prospectively the financing of Quad A, we will never go back and approve the expenditures on that building because it's off the list. So we get 2 bites at every dollar.
Other questions?
Thank you. If I could remind everyone to make sure that their microphone is on by pushing and making sure the red button is there. And when you're speaking, if you could please pull your microphone closer to your face, both for those here, and this is a recorded session for those who aren't able to watch it now, so that everyone can hear this great dialogue that's going on. Thank you.
Scott, does that wrap you up?
Sir?
Time to get out of the seat then.
That's all right. Have a nice evening, everyone.
For you though, Scott, you'll be able to answer quickly. When you saw that December 2nd date for that public meeting about that school, did that make you cringe, realizing that you were in a different meeting on December 2nd?
I didn't create the slide, so I just read it. Sorry.
Okay, who's next?
All right, moving on, we have a slide that briefly goes over some of our other safety, technology, and maintenance projects. For those members who are new, we don't go into detail on the safety improvements for reasons that we don't want to disclose that information. And Mr. Dwayne Alton's going to talk a little bit about that.
Good evening. So I wanted to, even though we don't talk about specifically what projects are going on at what school when it comes to security, I did want to bring forward that we, in the last quarter, completed 21 security upgrade projects at various schools. We have 16 in the hopper right now that are already underway that will be completed before the next quarter, and we'll have some additional projects that start and finish in the next quarter. Again, the types of security projects we implement, you can imagine surveillance technologies, systems for controlling access to the buildings and all that, but we don't get into specifics as to what capability we have at what school and where we are with that. The second project that we report on is what we call the Atlas project, and that's the interactive technology project that provides interactive panels, audio enhancement systems, document cameras, and things like that in all of our classrooms. And we have completed in the last quarter 4 schools with that project. We have 8 right now that are in some stage of completion. We are seeing that this is the project most hit by our supply chain challenges. So we are right now working with the manufacturers, but we're already expecting a slowdown in the spring. So we are working to see if we can rework that schedule at all. You know, the challenges that come with these things is when the work slows down, the contractors lose staff, there are things that go along with that, but this is one of those. This is the first time I'm coming and saying that we are probably not going to make schedule on any of the projects that we've in the history of the sales tax. So it's a pretty big issue for us, and it's only around those interactive panels that we're having the issues. Another portion of the sales tax referendum funding is used for computers and general use technology. And those, you don't see a lot of expenditures at the beginning of the year. And the reason for that is we refresh the equipment late spring so that it's in there during the summer. We start our purchases now because we do have supply chain issues, so we're sending out our POs right now. So you'll see encumbrances, but you won't see expenditures until the late spring, because that's when we'll actually get invoiced out and pay out those amounts. So there is work being done, even though it always appears like there's no work being done in that project up until the end of the school year. But I assure you there is. And just to speak to the equity discussion and zones and that. When it comes to the security projects, the technology projects, those are all being done in every zone. Every school is being brought up to an equitable level with each of these projects. So even though building new schools, you'll see a major push in the East Zone, for example. Some of the other projects with the technology, with the security and safety, and with the maintenance, which will be presented shortly, are implemented on a district-wide basis. Do you have any questions for me?
Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you again. I know you can't tell us about the safety improvement. I don't know if this is what. Do you have any outcome data for the safety implementations that we've had? Are there fewer fights, faster response times, less intruders on campus? Anything that we could use to say this is keeping kids safer and because you can't really talk about what we're doing, but you can talk about outcomes.
Well, I'm going to pull a Scott right now and say I'm the technology guy. We do the implementations. We do have a safety and security department, but I can tell you, from being in those discussions, that that we have two competing issues here. We have the improvements that we are looking to implement, on all the campuses, but at the same time, along with COVID, have come a lot of issues around mental health, and so the schools are having some challenges there. It would be difficult for us to say that because we've implemented these technologies that we've had a certain percentage drop in what we call sensor incidents, which are more severe incidents, because we have other factors at play here. So I'd love to say that we could give you an answer on that sometime soon, but I doubt that with those two competing conditions that we would be able to do that very cleanly.
Thanks.
Other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next up, we have Mrs. Barbara Cedino and Mr. Jimmy Thompson from our maintenance department, and they're going to go through some of the show and tell on what's been going on in our schools.
Good evening, committee members, Mrs. Vaughn, and fellow colleagues. As they said, we're the two administrators for the Maintenance Services Department. This evening, we want to go over our slides. As you can see from the first slides, these are a list of some of the projects that we have recently completed. It's a combination of lighting, fire alarm upgrades, seal coating, restriping, as well as tennis courts. Next slide, please. This is an example of the Edgewood project that was recently completed. We had installed gutters within the inner corridors to help prevent the washouts and trip hazards for staff and students. Next, please. This next one is one of the examples of the Gateway Elementary School lighting projects that we have completed. The previous metal light poles that sat on concrete footers were now replaced with more robust concrete poles that have a depth of about 6 to 8 feet. And these will have the ability to withstand, or better withstand, our subtropical environment and harsh weather conditions. This next slide is more of an informational slide. As been mentioned in previous conversations earlier this evening, they talked about different areas that we're focusing on. As you can see from the list, we have 74 plus active projects. The next area is ongoing gutter projects. We have a total of 8 gutter projects. As mentioned earlier, Edgewood was one that we recently completed. One of the things that we are currently doing a little bit different is we've done an enhancement to the existing gutters that we currently use. And I'll let Mr. Thompson explain the difference.
What we've done is we've upgraded into subtropical environments such as Lexington, which Ms. Vaughn is familiar with. We upgraded from a steel gutter to a aluminum gutter, which is 0.05 thickness, which is roughly equates to what, 1/8 of an inch. It's a much more robust gutter system. We went with a heavier duty bracketry, which we've had custom fabbed to prevent the roll of the gutter. That, obviously that's your home, a smaller system, 6-inch seamless gutter. During a heavy rain event, it rolls. At a school such as Lexington, we take each school into account of where is it at in the district, how close is it to the water, and what have we seen in the past. So at Lexington, we knew we couldn't go back with steel gutters. We went back with an aluminum gutter, slightly thicker. And our downspouts are roughly 8 to 10 inches, and they're getting the water off the roof as fast as they can, and we're holding the gutters as tight as the building as we possibly can to protect our asset. All 3-story buildings in the district have that 12-inch gutter. It's a substantial gutter. All 3-story buildings have that gutter system. All 2 stories and less have a solid 8-inch gutter system. Same type of bracketry that we've designed. It's extremely robust, and it will be here long after I'm not.
So the reason we need these gutters, as you can see from the photograph in the PowerPoint presentation, we are experiencing deterioration of the concrete sidewalks. Adding these gutters will definitely help reroute some of that water flow into designated retention areas or drainage areas. Next slide, please.
Oh, beyond that.
Okay. So we have a lot of projects, as mentioned earlier, so instead of giving you a whole breakdown, we wanted to break down a little bit and show you the different categories that we're focusing on. Within each category, we have broken down a list of sites. As you can see, there's a variance of, projects in every zone, in multiple schools, and again, it's based on need, it could be based on age, it can be based on current conditions and facility assessments that we have performed. Next area that we've mentioned before, we have lighting upgrades that we're continuously working through. We recently completed the Dunbar High School parking lot lighting upgrades. To the right, you will see that we have 4 additional projects there. The Hancock Creek, we're still waiting on project estimates. Calusa, we recently completed a site walkthrough, waiting on proposals for what the project is going to cost us. With Eastleigh County High School, we have received materials. We're trying to work on a start date to not disrupt the facility's sporting events. At Fort Myers High, we've done off-site walkthrough, and we're waiting on a project estimate. In Island Coast, we've also recently completed this project. Next area is electrical switchgear upgrades. We're focusing on 5 electrical switchgear upgrades this year. As you can see from the slide, there are 3 that have been scheduled for the June time period, and the other 2 projects, we're still waiting to schedule those projects. Again, this is another example of the different areas that we're focusing on in the Maintenance Services Department. Many projects, flooring upgrades, for example. We have proposals that are under review. We're getting ready to submit those purchase orders, and these projects are going to be projects for the summer. Next one could be like, the next one we're working on is cabinet upgrades. We have ones for Orangewood Elementary that's starting January 7th. And then the secondary one, Orange River, the contractor has made measurements, and they're currently working on CAD drawings for this project. Next. The next slide here, an example of one of the chiller projects that we're currently working on. We have, I believe it's a total of 5. This in particular one is the one that we have received equipment for. Both of these chillers, they're 2 quantity 440-ton chillers. Both of them haven't been installed. The secondary chiller just recently had a startup this Tuesday. We're currently working on installation of the piping, as well as the controls that go with these train units. Additionally, one interesting thing that as we were looking through some of our information, we were looking at some of our energy costs, and it couldn't be a perfect timing to do this project. When we looked at last year's energy consumption for Island Coast High School, it revealed that Island Coast High School had utilized about 5.3 million kilowatt hours. When compared to similar sites that only use about 3.5 million kilowatt hours. When we looked at the dollars, significant difference. Island Coast High School was actually about 50% plus higher than some of the similar sites. So again, it couldn't be a better time to do this type of project. Other areas that we're focusing on are restroom upgrades. These are 2 needed projects. As you can see from the photographs on the right side, there's a red arrow that's pointing to the bottom part of that wall. We are experiencing studs and tracks that are rusting behind the ceramic tile walls. So we're having to go in and reinforce these walls with additional partitions. And then in the case of Cypress Lake High Schools, when we're doing a lot of our walkthroughs, a lot of these fixtures are very original, very outdated. So it's due for... Huh?
That date's wrong.
Is it?
Yeah, I went there in 1968, first class in new buildings.
Oh. I had to check our spreadsheet. I'm so
like
sorry.
the school year.
I thought you need to answer that.
That's great.
I appreciate the update, though. That's great.
We need to know what grade you were in at that.
All right, so we'll definitely get that corrected. So one of the things that we noticed at Cypress Lake High School is that we have to bring these fixtures up to compliance to the new 88 standards, et cetera. So as you can see from the urinals there, they're all kind of the same height. So with doing these upgrades, we will be providing refreshes to the floors, ceilings, lighting, plumbing fixtures, et cetera. So that's an exciting project for us this year. And last, we have about 12 total paving projects. We have about 2 that have been fully completed. We're still working on Dunbar Middle School. They recently broke the grounds. They're doing the subsurface preparations for this project. And as we come, we have several more that we're going to be working through the year at different stages. And I believe that completes our presentation for this evening. Thank you.
Yeah, I have one. First off, you guys have an outstanding maintenance department, and
thank you.
You're doing incredible things. So thank you for sharing that and for doing what you do.
Thank you.
You can't do all this with all your maintenance team. Obviously, you're bringing in contractors, you're outsourcing some of it. Do you have an idea of how much you're outsourcing? The reason I'm asking is because we're contributing to the local economy through paving companies or gutter companies. Do you have an idea as to what we're spending that is being put into the region?
Honestly, we don't have a solid figure, and the reason is you know, the city's growing, you know, the county's growing at a rapid pace, and we haven't evolved with it as far as personnel. So what we've done is the majority of a lot of those projects, we're pushing them out to what's called a CM, which is a construction manager, which allows them to run through a pool. It's a revolving pool where, for example, if each one of you owned a general contracting firm, you would roll from. So if we needed a project to go on in the west zone or the south zone where you live, we would enter an email into procurement. They would say, okay, this is the next general contractor that's on the list. So we utilize our CM process for a lot of what we do, especially when you talk about some roofing projects, some cabinetry projects, and some window projects, so on and so forth. However, we also have a different set of bids in maintenance, which is called our continuing contract bids. Those continuing contract bids are in the past have been small dollar value bids because we haven't had these large scale projects, but what we've done is to save that cost expense to the taxpayer, which is typically 10 to 12% on average. For the CM projects, we utilize what's called our continuing contracts, which would be our cabinetry bid, which would be our roofing, gutters, fascia, and soffit bid, which is coming up this year for bid. Those are the bids we typically use. So to tell you that I have an exact percentage of how much we do, we don't have that.
My point is you're keeping a lot of small businesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If I could jump in here for a second. So we have reached out to the FGCU Economic Development Team and asked them if they would be able to help us put together some numbers on that. So we are in the process of seeing of what is our economic impact of the sales tax to our local economy.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, I was in the industry. New schools are really flashy, and that's really, you know, the public sees them, but these kinds of improvements that are being paid for by the sales tax are throughout the district, and in the past, many of these improvements just simply did not happen. And
Yes.
the students, when the tennis court got bad, there was no more tennis program on a surface that was worth playing on. It was dangerous. I mean, there were a lot of things that didn't happen for lack of funding. This is huge. It touches, you probably have touched every school in the district with one small project at least, between blinds and cabinets and switchgear and air conditioning. So yeah,
Yes.
it's throughout.
Yeah.
And it's filling a huge need.
I think that's a story, right? The sales
Yep,
tax
it
is
is.
creating economic development in our region.
We have broken past the Shemp goal by 9 minutes now. It's now 9 minutes after 7, and I'd like to move on in the agenda if anyone else that has it.
One more quick question.
Go ahead.
Because pools is never listed on the list of improvements, but I know that Riverdale and Cypress Lake both had pool refinishes, so I didn't know if that was in a separate, like, it doesn't come out of the sales tax money, or?
That's part of it. Sorry to interrupt you there.
That's okay.
That's part of a joint interlocal agreement that we have with the county.
Okay, great.
So it's a shared expense.
Got it, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Okay, so we'll move on to financials.
Kelly, I think it goes to you, doesn't it?
Yep, it's my turn. So I just wanted to show you all, this was in the packet that was sent out. You can see that since the inception of the sales tax to now, we estimated that we would collect through the end of this fiscal year, by the way, would be $286 million. To date, we've collected $231 million, and that was as of November 18th. If we continue on the collection path that we're going right now, we will exceed our projected revenue amount. So my office is right now taking a look at our projections to see if maybe we need to make some adjustments in those projections based on the collections that we've been seeing come through. This just is a breakdown, as you can see, where our projections were for FY '21, which was last year, and where the revenue actually came in and the difference in that. And we really, as you recall, we had discussions, we expected COVID to really drop our collections, and we really did not see that. So we are, like I said, going back and making those projections over. So I'm going to go back in your packets, and I want to apologize for the very, very small size of the spreadsheets, but in order to get them on one page, they were sent out that way. So this sheet, and I don't even know if you all can see this at all. No, I can't, and I'm looking right at it. So this was the quarter report, and I'm trying to get across here. So this shows the last 2 quarters of last year and then the first 2 quarters of this year. And last year you can see that, well, let's see, in the last quarter we had collected 16.9 million, and in this quarter we've collected 9.4. That was as of November 18th, and since then we have also collected another $9 million. This also shows the expenditures that have occurred in the budgets in the areas that they're at. And as I think it was Mr. Alton had pointed out, it doesn't really look like there's a lot of expenditures, but there's a lot of budget, and that's because the expenditures really start coming in later. It takes a while to get the RFQs, the bids, the process is all in place, the purchase orders, ordering this stuff, and then finally getting it done. And the expense comes in after everything's done and the work has been completed. And so it takes a little bit longer, and so you'll see more of the expenses as we get to the 3rd and 4th quarter. Any questions on the quarterly report?
Kelly, I have a suggestion. This sheet is very difficult to read, particularly when it comes over computer-wise. 18, 19, 19, and 20, those are all ancient history. Maybe we ought to shift that report to carrying the current year and the prior year only, turn it 90 degrees, print it bigger, and you might get a little more committee activity in terms of being able to look at it for you.
Got it. We'll do that.
Anybody have a problem with doing that? I mean, I just hate to see us.
You end up doing that now by touching and spreading and
Yeah.
moving around anyway. So.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll most definitely do that. Thank you.
Well, let's go to a prior fiscal year and current fiscal year report for this one, if it's okay.
Got it. We will do that. And then our annual report is the same thing. It has since the inception, and it shows the revenue collections, where we budgeted, where we collected it, and as you can see in 18, 19, and 19, 20, we collected more than we had anticipated. Oh, no, bless, I'm sorry, it's the other way. And in 21, we collected more, $12 million more, and so we are re-looking at ours, as I said before, the ones we, for our 22 to see where we are. And then you can see each of the individual projects and what was spent from the beginning of the sales tax through the inception, through this time period right now. That's the annual report for all.
Any questions regarding the spreadsheets?
Mr. Chairman, if you're ready, I'll make a motion to approve the projects as presented.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Who is the second?
All in favor? Aye. And I believe we also have to have somebody make a motion to approve the financials and open that for discussion.
Second.
Okay, and Harlan second. Any discussion regarding the financial report? Very good. I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Member comments? Good report. I have to apologize. I'm 15 minutes beyond goal. Sorry about that. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Fred always likes to second that one. All in favor? Aye. We're gone.
Aye.
Thank you all for your service.
Very much.